The heat clung to Dax's skin like a second, suffocating layer. Sand whipped at his face, caught in the dry wind that howled through the jagged remnants of what had once been a city. The sun blazed a ruthless orange overhead, casting long, jagged shadows across the ruins. He moved with purpose, rifle slung across his back, blade at his side, eyes scanning every motion in the distance. Trust was a currency long extinguished on this ravaged world. He paused at the crest of a broken wall. Crouching low, below, the market square lay buried in silence and golden dust. Once a hub of trade between species, it was now a skeleton of broken stalls and cracked stone. The mission had been simple: retrieve a lost data core from the site. Valuable intel, recoverable tech. It was supposed to be abandoned. It wasn't. She moved like smoke through sunlight, tall, lithe, every motion a symphony of power and precision. Blue skin shimmered beneath elaborate armor forged from bone and alien alloys. White dreadlocks framed her angular face, and her crimson eyes locked onto us the moment he shifted position. Dax's breath hitched. He'd heard of them, warriors from the outworld clans. Merciless, honorable in ways humans never understood. Her presence here was not coincidence. They stared across the open space, a silent negotiation. He raised his hand slowly, unarmed, a diplomatic gesture, though his muscles remained taut. She tilted her head, a motion almost curious, then stepped forward, blade in hand. Dax descended cautiously, hands visible. "I'm not looking for a fight." "Then you shouldn't be here." Her voice was smoke on steel, low and threaded with warning. Her comment was precise, but thick with an accent that hinted at ancient dialects. "I'm here for a core," he said, glancing toward the fracture control terminal half buried in rubble. "That's all. No conflict unless you bring it." "You step on sacred ground," she replied. "You dig through graves of scraps." She advanced another step. "Tell me, human, how is that not conflict?" Dax held her gaze. "I don't follow orders I agree with, just the ones that keep me alive." Her eyes narrowed. "And yet you walk so close to death." Silence wrapped around them. A current of heat and dust drifted between their boots. Then Dax shifted his weight, half a step, instinct, reflex, maybe just the wrong twitch at the wrong time. Her blade was at his throat before he finished the motion. Not touching, but close enough that he could feel his hunger. His hand hovered near his sidearm. He didn't draw. "Touch me again, human," she hissed, her breath cold despite the heat. "I'll show you a monster you won't survive." He met her eyes, jaw tight. "If I wanted to fight, you'd already know." "No," she said softly, almost sadly. "You'd already be dead." They remained locked there, predator and prey, though neither was sure who played which role. Around them, the ruins held their breath. Then, slowly, deliberately, she lowered her blade. "I am Exarin," she said, "blood-born of the Sixth Flame, keeper of Ash, and you are trespassing." "Dax," he answered. "Just Dax." Exarin stepped back, but didn't sheath her weapon. "This place is cursed with memory. My people bled here, burned here, and now your kind scavenge their bones for advantage. I didn't choose this site," Dax said. "I just do the job. They don't pay me to care." "Then why do you speak like someone who does?" That question cut deeper than he expected. Dax wasn't sure if it was an accusation or a recognition. Maybe both. A sudden crash echoed from the far edge of the ruins, mechanical, sharp. Exarin tensed, snapping her head toward the sound. Dax turned as well, instincts reigniting. "They're early," he muttered. Exarin moved swiftly toward cover, motioning for Dax to follow. He hesitated, then obeyed, driven more by pragmatism than trust. "What is it?" she asked, crouched beside him behind a crumbled pillar. "Could be patrols. Could be looters. But those weren't boots. That was track metal. Drones, maybe." Her eyes flickered. "Yours." He shook his head. "No. And if they're not mine or yours, they're worse." Exarin exhaled sharply, lips curling in distaste. "The carrion pact." Dax nodded. He'd heard of them. Human and alien deserters, bound together by greed, feeding on war's leftovers. No flag, no rules. Just blood and salvage. I need that core, Dax whispered. If I leave empty, they'll assume I sold it or failed. Either way, I'm dead. Then you'll die here. There's no retrieving it without drawing their eye. He looked at her. Help me? I know these systems. I can get the data. But I need a blade at my back. Xa-Rin studied him in silence. Her eyes didn't blink like a human's. They shimmered, calculating, ancient. I don't protect thieves, she said. But I kill those who would desecrate the dead for sport. Then we have common enemies. A pause. A breath. You will not touch me, she said. You will not speak unless it is useful. You will obey when I command. Dax smiled, humorless. That's the best deal I've had in weeks. Without a word, she turned, leading him deeper into the ruins. Dax followed, blade drawn, pulse quickening. Behind them, the noise grew louder, shouts, metal grinding, the hum of scavenger drones. The storm was coming, and somewhere ahead, buried in the bones of war, was the last piece of truth either of them had the luxury to fight for. Their truce was thin, fragile as glass. But in this world, glass still cut deep, and monsters bled, too. They moved like ghosts through the hollow skeleton of the market ruins. Every footstep calculated, soundless. Xa-Rin led with quiet precision, navigating debris and collapsed archways, as if she had memorized the place long before it had turned to ash. Dax followed, keeping pace, his senses stretched thin. Behind them, the growing whir and hiss of machines tore at the silence, distant but closing. He didn't ask where she was going. She wouldn't have answered, but she hadn't tried to kill him again, and that was progress. They reached a shattered stairwell half buried beneath a collapsed tower. Xa-Rin stopped, crouching beside it, brushing aside a layer of dust to reveal ancient alien markings carved into stone. This leads to the undervault, she said. A sacred chamber before your kind turned it into a tactical bunker. Still sacred to me if it keeps us alive, Dax replied, watching the shadowed passage descend into blackness. Xa-Rin gave him a sharp glance, but didn't argue. Instead, she vanished into the gloom, moving with silent certainty. Dax hesitated at the edge, then followed her into the earth. The air grew colder the deeper they went. Stone gave way to rusted metal, then to reinforced alloy plating. Scavenged, repurposed, welded in wartime desperation. The bunker hadn't been abandoned. It had been sealed. Now it was their temporary sanctuary. They emerged into a narrow corridor lit faintly by emergency lights pulsing a dull amber. The place smelled of oil, scorched metal, and something else, memory maybe. Dax recognized the architecture. Human military additions grafted onto alien ruins. It was an uneasy fusion of design. Like everything about this planet, it didn't belong to anyone anymore. Xa-Rin stopped at a console, brushing her palm across it. Her fingers glowed faintly, bioluminescence sparking ancient code. Symbols flickered to life. The wall parted. The chamber beyond was round, walls lined with dormant screens and hollowed-out server arrays. A single pedestal stood in the center, and on it, a data core the size of a child's skull, glowing with soft violet light. Dax stepped forward, but Xa-Rin's arm blocked him. You touch nothing, she said, until we speak of why you are truly here. I told you. You lied, she interrupted coldly. Or you told only part of it. Either way, you insult me by thinking I would not see it. He sighed, rubbing a hand through sweat-damp hair. I need the core. My superiors believe it holds coordinates, movement logs from the war. They think there's a buried weapons cache. Xa-Rin circled him, eyes narrowing. And what do you believe? He met her gaze. I think there's something in there they're afraid of. Maybe proof of something we did. Maybe something worse. Xa-Rin turned toward the pedestal. The war ended with treaties written in blood. But not all wounds heal when the ink dries. You lost people here. She nodded once. I was among them. This ground remembers screams the stars have forgotten. Dax looked away. Humans don't do well with memory. We bury it under metals and pretend we were always the heroes. She studied him a moment longer, then stepped aside. You may retrieve it, but you carry the weight of what you awaken. Dax approached the core, hand steady. It was warm beneath his fingers, almost pulsing. As he lifted it, lights on the pedestal flickered and dimmed. Somewhere above, the sound of shattering stone echoed down the corridor. Rin tensed. They found the stairwell. Then we move, Dax said, sliding the core into his pack. They exited the chamber swiftly, heading deeper into the complex. The passage narrowed into maintenance shafts, barely wide enough for them to crawl. Dax took the lead this time, flashlight in hand. Behind him, Rin moved with eerie quiet. "You ever fight them before?" he asked over his shoulder. The carrion packed. Her voice was a whisper behind him. "Yes, they believe in nothing, not even their own survival. Sound like most mercs I've met. They are worse. They hunger for pain, not just victory." They reached a small utility room, reinforced from inside, likely once a last stand. Dax sealed the door as Rin checked a dusty weapon rack. She took a long-bladed polearm from the wall, twirling it once before slinging it over her back. Dax sat heavily on a crate. "So, what's the real story with you? You're not just some gravekeeper." Rin stared at him. "Among my people, I was born during a blood moon. My name was given after I killed my first betrayer. I was 13. Dax exhaled. Hell of a coming-of-age ritual. Your kind comes of age through forgetting. Mine remembers. Always." He watched her for a long moment. "You ever think about leaving? Going somewhere quieter? Somewhere without old ghosts and mercenary scum?" "There is no quiet," she said softly. "Not in the blood. Not in the stars." Dax looked down at his hands. "Guess we're both haunted." A pause. Silence thickened, but not unkindly. Then boom! The door shuddered, metal groaning. Dust rained from the ceiling. Rin spun toward it, polearm in hand. Dax stood, drawing his blade and sidearm in one motion. "They tracked us through the heat signatures," he said grimly. "Then we kill quickly. And move quicker." Another impact. The lock began to melt under a plasma cutter. They had seconds. Rin crouched beside the door. Dax took the opposite side. As the cutter finished its arc, the door fell inward with a scream of metal, and chaos erupted. The first merc through the breach caught Rin's blade through the throat. She yanked it free with a snarl, spinning to drive the shaft into a second. Dax fired 2 clean shots, dropping a third attacker before ducking under wild return fire. Screams echoed in the cramped space. Bodies at the floor. Rin was a blur of motion. Every strike a lesson in anatomy. Dax covered her flanks, pulling a down attacker's grenade and hurling it into the hall beyond. It detonated with a thunderous roar. Silence fell. Smoke curled in the air, mingling with the scent of scorched flesh. Blood pooled on the floor in widening arcs. Dax lowered his weapon, chest heaving. Rin stood over a dying merc, watching him choke on his own breath. She didn't speak. Her face was stone. "He was just a kid," Dax said quietly. "He chose his war," she replied, "just like we chose ours." He didn't answer. Couldn't. They searched the bodies for supplies, ammo, water, clean bandages. When they were done, they moved again. Hours passed. The sun began to dip low. Its angry light filtered through cracks in the bunker above. They rested in an alcove behind collapsed wall, finally safe, if only for the moment. Rin sat cross-legged, eyes closed, meditating or perhaps mourning. Dax watched her, the data core between them, its glow faint now. She opened her eyes. "You carry more than orders, Dax. You carry guilt." "I carry a lot of things," he said. "Guilt's just the one that talks loudest." She looked at him for a long moment. "Good. It means you're not deaf to consequence." He chuckled dryly. "Never thought I'd be taking philosophy lessons from someone who threatened to kill me less than a day ago." Rin's lips curled. "You still might die." "Yeah," Dax said, leaning back against the wall. "But not today." Outside, the desert winds howled like hungry beasts. And beneath the earth, the last fragments of forgotten wars stirred, waiting to be remembered. The night stretched endlessly across the broken desert, stars bleeding through thin clouds like open wounds in the sky. In the ruins of an observation tower now swallowed by sand, Dax and Rin sat huddled against the cold. A small fire crackled between them, its flames licking low to avoid detection. They hadn't spoken for some time, but the silence was not hostile. It was laden, weighty, like the pause before a storm breaks. Dax turned the data core over in his hands. It hummed faintly, the surface cool and smooth, etched with symbols he didn't recognize. "We should have decrypted it by now," he muttered. Xarin looked up from sharpening her blade. "You fear what it will say." He didn't deny it. "It's not just coordinates. You were right. This thing is more than a map." Xarin gestured for the core. He passed it to her, and she placed her palm gently on its surface. The glow intensified. Symbols shifted across its casing, rearranging into new sequences, pulsing in rhythm with her breath. She closed her eyes, focused. After a long moment, the core emitted a soft tone. Holographic lines burst upward, sketching a three-dimensional map of the planet, overlaid with shifting streams of alien text. Red markers blinked at intervals, dozens of them, each one embedded deep within ravaged cities or beneath military ruins. Dax leaned forward. "Those aren't weapons caches." "No," she whispered. "They're memory vaults. Data? Confessions. Records. Evidence of atrocities. Yours and mine. Everything that was never supposed to be remembered." The realization sank like stone in Dax's gut. They'll kill to keep this hidden. They already have. A new symbol pulsed to life. It hovered just above Xarin's hand, an insignia Dax recognized too well. "Project Eclipse," he said darkly. "Top-level Black Ops. Officially denied. Unofficially monstrous." Xarin's voice was quiet. "They used my people. Ran tests in secret laboratories beneath sacred ground. Dissected our dead. Cloned them." Dax's stomach churned. "I didn't know it was real." "You do now." He sat back, firelight dancing across his face. "My team, my orders. They would recover what they could. I thought it was just tech. I didn't realize they wanted this, to erase the last traces." Xarin watched him closely. "You understand, then. This is not about treasure or power. It is about silence." Footsteps interrupted them. Both rose as one, weapons drawn, bodies tense. From the darkness beyond the firelight came a figure. Tall, armored, faceless behind a sleek helmet bearing the insignia of a United Systems vanguard. Agent Dax Mercer. The voice echoed from the helmet's Vox module. "You are ordered to surrender the data core immediately." Dax didn't lower his weapon. "How did you find me?" "We tracked the signal the moment it activated. You knew the risks." Xarin stepped between them. "You sent him into a slaughter, knowing what he'd find." The agent shifted slightly, re-aiming his weapon. He volunteered. He always volunteers. Dax's voice was flat. "I should have known they'd send my own squad after me." "You're compromised," the agent replied, "emotionally and strategically." Xarin's eyes burned. "You have no idea how compromised he is." Dax's grip on his gun tightened. "I'm not handing over the core." "Then you signed your own death warrant." The agent moved, fast, but not fast enough. Xarin lunged with a blur of motion, her blade cleaving through the air. Sparks exploded as it struck the agent's gauntlet, forcing him back. Dax opened fire, driving the soldier behind cover. The fire between them scattered into embers. A second figure appeared behind the first, followed by a third. Dax cursed under his breath. They brought a whole team. Xarin dragged him into the shadows of the tower as the firefight exploded around them. Plasma bolts scorched the air, ripping through rusted steel. The ground shook as grenades detonated nearby, scattering debris and dust in all directions. They moved instinctively, years of battle baked into muscle memory. Xarin danced between cover like smoke, carving a path with her blade. Dax laid down suppressing fire, his shots clean, controlled. They moved as one, back to back, drawing closer to the structure's exit. "This isn't just about retrieval anymore." Dax shouted over the chaos. "They're here to erase us both." Xarin nodded grimly. "Then we make it costly." The third agent flanked them, bursting through a side wall. Dax reacted first, tackling him to the ground. They wrestled in the dust, trading blows. The agent was strong, enhanced, perhaps, but Dax fought with desperation. A knee to the gut, a twist of the wrist, and he disarmed the attacker, plunging his own blade deep into his neck. Blood sprayed. The agent convulsed, then stilled. X-Erin was already dispatching the second, her polearm driven straight through the chest. She turned to the first agent, who stood alone now, weapon-trained, but not firing. "Don't," Dax warned. The agent hesitated. X-Erin's voice was low. "You hesitate now? After all you've done?" "I didn't sign up for a purge," the agent said. "But I follow orders." "Then you'll die with them." Before the agent could respond, a sniper round punched through his helmet, snapping his head back. He collapsed lifeless. X-Erin and Dax ducked immediately, retreating behind rubble. "They got eyes on us from the ridge," Dax said. "We're exposed." "Then we move." Together. They bolted from the ruins, sprinting across the sands as sniper fire chased them. The data core pulsed between them, heavier now with meaning than weight. They didn't stop running until dawn bled across the horizon. By then, they were far from the tower, nestled in a ravine obscured by jagged rocks. Exhausted, bruised, but alive, Dax sank to the ground, chest heaving. They'll never stop. X-Erin crouched beside him. "Then we take the truth somewhere they can't bury it." He looked at her. "You know a place like that?" She nodded. "There are still allies. Hidden ones. Not all have forgotten." Dax glanced at the data core. "And what about the rest? All those memory vaults?" "We open them, one by one, until the stars remember what was done in their name." He met her eyes. There was no fear there, only resolve. For the first time since the mission began, Dax felt something other than guilt clawing at him. He felt purpose. And far above them, the stars stirred, awaiting revelation. Wind howled through the skeletal remains of the outpost, as though the planet itself were screaming in protest. Sand lashed at Dax's face like shards of glass, but he didn't flinch. He stood at the edge of the ravine, staring down the crumbling path ahead, hands steady despite the storm. Beside him, X-Erin crouched low, her cloak wrapped tightly around her, glowing eyes narrowed as she scanned the horizon. Behind them, the satellite uplink flickered to life. Ancient, scavenged tech barely held together by melted polyplates and luck. They'd spent 2 nights cobbling it into working condition. Now, as the signal cleared, the core's data fed into the transmitter, casting their truth across frequencies long since abandoned. "This will trigger every failsafe they buried," Dax said, voice rough from exposure. "They'll come with fleets, with fire." X-Erin did not look at him. Let them come. Let them find the graves they built. A hiss of static bled through the uplink. Then a voice, distorted, cautious. "Unidentified signal detected. This is Relay Station Thorn. State your intent." Dax stepped forward. "This is Mercer, formerly Vanguard Unit 6. Broadcasting data, recovered from Site Theta." A beat. Then another voice, different, older, marked with surprise. "Mercer is dead," declared Kia. "Then mark me resurrected," Dax replied. "And listen closely. What I'm sending you changes everything." X-Erin touched the data core again, and the transmission surged. Thousands of encrypted files, coordinates, field logs, visual records of atrocities, entire confessionals buried under layers of misdirection, shot into the net like scattered seeds. Dax didn't know who might receive them first, or who would even believe them. But the signal was out now. It could not be undone. He turned to X-Erin. "You said there were others, people who would help." "There are," she said, "but they are hunted, scattered, like us." "Then we find them." She stood slowly, gaze fixed northward, where the storm thinned and sunlight cracked through the clouds like an eye opening. Beyond that light, the mountains loomed, high ridges torn apart by bombardments and tectonic fractures. Somewhere in those ruins was a vault of Etherian, a place X-Erin insisted held the key to more than memory. It held witness, proof from before the war, before Earth's first step onto alien soil. It was, she claimed, the final record untainted by human or Alari hands. They moved at dusk, cloaked in twilight. The wind had died, but the silence it left behind was worse. It was the silence of watchers, those who had seen the signal rise and now stalked the airwaves like wolves. Dax checked his rifle as they climbed, each step grueling. They'll assume we're heading for the vault. Exarin nodded. Then we must become unpredictable. He studied her a moment. You don't fear them anymore. I never feared them, she said. I feared what I would become in resisting them. They crested a ridge. Below lay a dead city, one of the first colonized zones from the early expansion. Broken towers, collapsed bridges, roads swallowed by earth. Nature had reclaimed much, but not enough to mask the war scars. The vault, Exarin said, was buried beneath its central spire. They moved swiftly. Dax took point, eyes on the shadows, every muscle coiled. Exarin moved silently behind him, her presence a whisper against the ruins. As they passed a shattered monument, she paused, placing her hand on the engraved stone. It was once a meeting place, she murmured, for humans and Alari alike, before the first strike. What happened? We learned what your command truly wanted, and they learned what we were willing to burn to stop them. They reached the spire as night fell. The base had collapsed, revealing a vertical shaft descending deep into the earth. Dax rigged a light and began to climb, Exarin close behind. At the bottom, they found a sealed chamber, crusted with age. Exarin placed her palm on the ancient control panel. Symbols bloomed. The door opened. Inside, darkness breathed. Rows of memory crystals lined the walls, each glowing faintly. In the center stood a massive, circular table carved from obsidian, and etched with both human and Alari scripts. Suspended above it, a massive archive orb hovered, flickering with partial power. Exarin approached reverently. This is where the truth waits. She activated the orb. Light filled the chamber. Voices emerged, fragmented recordings, images, flashes of faces, locations, classified briefings from both sides. There were humans speaking of sterilization protocols, bioweapon testing, entire cities rendered uninhabitable to test atmospheric collapse. There were Alari warlords admitting to retaliatory raids, to executing unarmed prisoners for fear of surveillance. It was not a story of heroes and villains. It was a chorus of complicity. Dax watched, sickened, silent. My God! Exarin didn't look away. Your gods turned blind long ago. He turned to her. What do we do with this? She stepped closer. We show it. All of it. Unedited. No commentary. Let the galaxy decide if it still has a conscience. They'll say it's fabricated. Some will, but enough won't. And when truth spreads, lies decay. Suddenly, the vault trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. They've tracked the signal. Dax said, We're out of time. Exarin grabbed the archive orb. Then we run. Again. They fled through service tunnels beneath the city, winding deeper into a labyrinth of forgotten maintenance shafts. The tremors grew louder, dropships descending. The vanguard was here. At the tunnel's end, they emerged onto a cliffside far above the plains. Smoke rose behind them. Engines roared in the skies. Dax looked back. They'll glass the entire city if they have to. Exarin didn't argue. He activated a beacon from his belt. A hidden transponder buried near the crash site of his old ship blinked in response. A buried failsafe. He hadn't thought he'd ever need it. A soft chime answered. An old friend's voice crackled over comms. Mercer? This is Captain Yanov. We read your signal. Been a long time. Dax allowed himself a grim smile. Yeah, well, turns out dying was easier than telling the truth. Exarin raised her eyes to the incoming light in the sky. Dropships, fast and armed. Extraction window, she asked. 3 minutes. Dax replied, give or take. As they waited, crouched in the fading dark, Dax looked at her. After this, what then? We keep moving, she said. We find the rest of the vaults. We show the stars who we were, and who we must never become again. He nodded. The dropship searchlights crested the ridge, piercing the dark like truth cutting through silence. The world below still burned, but above, the future opened, uncertain, brutal, but no longer blind. They ran toward the light.